What's up, YouTube? Chapter 256 of Toriko. Oh my gosh. Amazing chapter. What can I even say? Amazing. Such a plot twist. I'm just gonna throw the spoiler alert warning out now, because that's all I'm gonna give. Such a plot twist, such a great chapter. I really didn't think he had it in him. Because here's how it works with stories like this. You can only throw in so many plot twists before either the next one's anticipated, or you run out of stuff to do, or the story is just not complex enough for any further plot twist to come in. And this was a perfect plot twist because it just completely was not expected, and it was perfect. It was sinister. It was like, holy crap, there's even more complexity behind this. Amazing. And therefore, like, this whole chapter needs to do, it needs a play-by-play by me. So I got my iPod here, and we're going to do a play-by-play of almost every single page, unless the page is very mundane, because there's a lot to talk about in this chapter. By the way, if you haven't seen my previous videos, I've explained this in the latest one. Basically, I've been way behind, and I've decided, for the good of my audience, despite my audience not being that large, I've decided, because there are people who do like it, despite them only being like a couple of my subscribers who actually watch all my videos, and rather than just being lazy, I'm taking out time in my day to pretty much do a review on every single chapter rather than just a very quick summary chapter of all the ones I've missed. So without further ado, 256. Now, the whole spiel at the beginning with the 8 kings is very interesting. A lot of very cool information that really elaborates on the world of Toriko, and I thought it was amazing from the start. The whole idea with the 8 kings being these strong beasts that pretty much rule this continent. It's crazy because, like, the one thing that I love about Toriko is how it just keeps one-upping itself. And it reminds me of Dragon Ball Z, but I do think Toriko does it even better, because it's come to a point where it's like, how can anyone get any stronger than this? Boom, another level. And it was like that from Dragon Ball Z, from before even the Frieza saga. And you can see how it's constantly outdone itself. And now you have stuff like Dragon Ball, the end of Dragon Ball Z, where you have Majin Buu fighting and stuff like that. And I really feel like this has happened with Toriko. You start out with the beginning, and then you get to a point where Toriko is having trouble dealing with the weakest creatures on the brinks, on the outside of the gourmet world, and almost dying to these creatures, and just living in the environment's too much for him. And it just keeps one-upping itself. So now we have these 8 kings who are so strong and yet very sensitive to their environment, knowing just when everything's going to happen, and apparently being able to survive all these mass extinctions because of its power and sensitivity. And I really like this chapter because for the longest time now, it's been alluded, ever since the whole thing with the 4 beasts and the heavenly kings sort of uniting to beat out the 4 beasts with their final attack that requires all 4 of them. It seems to have gone away from the whole idea that the whole manga is named Toriko, and that Toriko is the main character, and that he should be the one that becomes the strongest. And I love that it's come back to this, because I was scared for a moment that it wasn't going to be like this, because we got all these characters now that are much stronger than Toriko, and on top of that we have the heavenly kings who need to, combine to become the strongest. But in this chapter 256, and I'm looking at the page now, it pretty much says that the 8 kings of the gourmet world has sensed Toriko's power awakening, and for him to potentially become a threat to their reign, which is saying quite a lot, because quite frankly, like, I was scared Toriko wouldn't be that strong ever again, and he'd just be a minor supporting character, or just someone who'd still be the main character but never attain that level of strength. Or if he did, he'd always be on a parallel level with the other heavenly kings. That's not the case. What piqued my interest was the fact that it was never referenced that the current strongest people in the manga, which include Madura and Ichirayu, none of them, including the zombie Froze-sama and Jiro, none of them piked the 8 beasts of the gourmet world interest. Either that, or they were piked, but maybe the 8 kings already were aware of their power. It was just not mentioned. It's either that, or their power levels were of no consequence to these 8 kings, because their potential was nowhere close to these 8 kings, which means either these 8 kings are on a completely different level from anything we've even seen in Toriko so far, or the kings already know about their power level and are threatened by them as well, but it's just saying here in this panel that now Toriko is also a threat, but not yet, because it's also stated here that as of the current awakening, he doesn't have that kind of strength to equate to the kings, but he could pose a threat in the future, and that is why the 8 kings are have sensed Toriko's awakening, and that shows the level of sensitivity of these kings, because apparently, despite their world being so tremendously huge, because as of right now we know this Toriko universe is much larger than our Earth, and on top of that, for these kings, and this is quoted in the chapter, to be able to sense even the minuscule change in even a mosquito, apparently these kings are super sensitive, and they have a huge range, millions of times larger than Zebra's range, and we have yet to see their power level. All we know about the kings are, like, here's what we know. We know Terry, the adult form of Terry, he's got to be that's got to be a king. The adult form of of Sunny's snake is a king. That's just going to be a large snake and a large wolf. So we got 2 of the 8, right? And then we got the third one. The third one mentioned was, we don't know what it looks like. We just know what its child looks like, and it seems to be some sort of crocodile creature. And where do we know this from? Well, every time Madura went to procure the curing water, he fought this child form, I believe. And so those are the 3. And I think there was a panel on the mouse, and it was used to reference the sensitivity of the kings, but I really would like one of the kings to be some fragile, tiny creature, maybe a mouse. That would be pretty cool, just to show that power isn't always in size. So now we see Toriko just unable to move, and his rejuvenated body parts are very strange. They're tanned. They're not exactly resembling the inner demon, because his nails aren't pointed. Other than it being tan colored, it looks like his normal body. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm assuming it's some sort of metamorphosis, but Toriko's sitting there pretty much crying that he lost Komatsu. Now we have this Sasaya fight going on in the gourmet world, and even more people revealed to be part of the Neo group. And again, fake Froze-sama being referenced as Joa. Now, based on this chapter, my hypothesis is that Froze-sama is not some demented, convoluted, fake form. This is the legit Froze-sama who has been cured intentionally by Madura, and she has arisen from the grave, revived, and through this is all part of Katya's plan. Froze-sama is pretty much masquerading as this Joa figure. Before this whole ordeal, she has always masked herself with that jester hat and masqueraded as Joa to be the sort of the hidden controller of Neo organization. Now, it seems like the leaders are the rich benefactors, like the richest people in the human world who have like trillions of dollars. However, maybe Joa / Froze is really pulling the strings behind because of her whole sort of end goal, which is revealed in this chapter, which is attaining the end land, which I think it was referenced by Katya's too, and this reveals even more, which is explained in this chapter, which is that one, Katya is not a good guy. Maybe he was initially with the whole saving the human world from starvation thing, but now maybe he has evil intentions, or maybe just intentions that require evil methods to attain for the greater good, sort of like the whole Watchmen thing from the Watchmen film. To attain the greater good, you have to sometimes do some evil things. And so we see the societies here fighting it out, right? And you see a level of high revivability. He gets his arm chopped off. He uses this sort of spit paste, immediately catches his arm, spits on the part, puts it back in, it automatically heals, and then he punches with that arm. So it's a high level of revivability, which is the whole point of being a Sasaya. And so here's the whole thing. It's revealed in this chapter that the greatest Sasaya of all time, the living national treasure, his name is Moyen Shai, who, as we know, if you know the national treasure level, they're freaking insane power level. And this guy, if this Sasai can revive arm parts just like that, it gets chopped off, boom, just paste it back on. Who knows the potential of this Sasaya guy? Maybe he can revive dead people. Maybe that's how Froze-sama was revived. Probably not though, because I feel like that the only method referenced to be able to do that would be one of the items on the Katya's full course. And from what we've seen so far, it's not something easily attainable or just give it to anyone. It's probably one of those Pandora box things where you have to give up more than it's worth. Sort of like again, spoiler alert, the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean film movie. You kind of have to give up more than it's worth, and that's why, again, some people in the Bishokukai were sort of strung along with this fake sort of dream that you can revive people. Chiyo-sama was strung along with this end goal, thus corrupting herself to become evil to attain revival of her son. Anyhow, we see them fighting here, and it seems like basically Madura is completely unaware of all of this because apparently he's stupid, and he has a lot of spies, or bugs as they call it in this chapter, who are essentially, what it is pretty much Neo members who have infiltrated the organization as agents. and Midora is completely oblivious. He's like, "What? Tell me more, Ichirayu." And then Ichirayu already knows about this. That's why he's kept his group very small, small as in 12 or 15, which I think is still pretty large. But even the IGO has people who have been infiltrated in the organization. And so it really sucks. It seems like Neo really has everything under control. They have spies in both groups. They already know what's going on, and it's all starting to make sense. Why wasn't Neo really a part of this whole fight to capture these ingredients for Katya's full course along with the others? It seems like they weren't really after the full course after all, because they're after something even better. Maybe something monetary, because their leaders are very wealthy and geared towards making money. And I believe that Froze-sama is stringing them along to potentially either one of two things: complete Akatsu's will, because this is all some sort of grandmaster plan by Katya, or maybe Froze-sama is unbeknownst to Katya, she has revived herself to complete her own sort of wicked plan that involves chasing after Katya without his knowledge and getting to this end goal place. Anyhow, what we see here is that the IGO Zeroth Biotope, led by Ichirayu, has also been pretty much, well, not all of them, but a lot of them have been defeated completely by the Bishokukai members / Neo members. I'm thinking here, it seems like that, but in all honesty, all we see are 3 members of IGO being wiped out. So the other members that may be another story. It was definitely an intentional thing by the author to only show 3, including, well, technically 4 of the IGO members, in addition to Ichirayu being wiped out and just lying on the floor bloody and pretty much apparently dead, in order to give the false pretense, or the true pretense, that the IGO has been wiped out. That still leaves like 7 or 8 members that could be faring well, and we don't know about the Bishokukai. Maybe the Bishokukai members are dead or defeated as well. We don't know. But it doesn't really matter, because the point is, like, there's a whole another group going on, and then we got these blue Nitro, who are apparently on another level apart from the regular Nitro or the wing Nitro. Maybe these blue Nitro are the leaders, and maybe these blue Nitro actually can talk and have real intentions. And so you see Ichirayu, who is like, before these couple chapters, we deemed to be one of the strongest people in the entire Toriko universe. The only one stronger would be Jiro and Madura and Katya and Froze-sama and Setsuno. Those are the only other ones alive that we know of that are stronger. And we see him here dying and then being taken out by this blue Nitro. And we saw before how, like, there's like dozens of blue Nitro that surrounded Katya. And so we don't know what's going on here. Maybe Katya knew he was outclassed and he was forced into doing something he couldn't escape from. We don't know. And maybe this was all part of his plan for greater good. Maybe he was forced to do something to procure something for these blue Nitro. And in the process, he knew the only way to get about doing this was to fake Froze-sama's death and then do this whole thing to force Madura, without his intentions, to sort of heal Froze-sama after the blue Nitro had left, so that she would one day revive and then finish Katya's will and take out the blue Nitro. We don't know. That's my ridiculous hypothesis. And so it seems like Ichirayu has died here. Again, I feel like this is finalized, but I've been tricked a couple times before where I'm saying, yes, he's dead for sure, and then boom, he's revived again. So we don't know for sure with any of these manga, but I feel like potentially Ichirayo has died here. I don't know anymore because a lot of times I'm like, yes, this author finally has balls. He's gonna cut out a major character. He's finally gonna kill him, and then the next chapter it's like, oh nope, he's still alive. He survived. Just kidding. He doesn't have balls. I'm taking that back. So I don't know. I'm hoping Midori or Ichirayo dies, not because I don't like the guy. I think I'm rooting for him to survive, but I'm sort of irked at this point that the author doesn't have the balls to really kill out any major characters or show any real tragedy in this manga series. But we'll see. So he pretty much, all Ichirayu tells Midora, and some people might be like, that wasn't even important anyways. Other members would have told him, and on top of that, he would have found out him for himself. So it was wasted. Ichirayo should have went on to saying more important stuff before the Blue Nicho took him out. But it was really important because I don't think anyone else would have been able to get to that high security level to be able to tell Midora this. And on top of that, it was the whole point of the cliffhanger at the end. The Blue Nicho taking out Midora or Ichirayo at the opportune moment. And so what happens is Ichirayo lets out that there's spies in both organizations and there's this other faction. And then here's the key thing that was important. He tells Midora that Froze-sama's death was something Katya didn't even account for, and it had to reach the final land, and a chef was necessary to do that. So Katya planted seeds anticipating the worst case scenario, and pretty much it's very abstract, but he pretty much, it seems like Katya set up Midora to do what he did and kill Froze-sama, and by doing so Ichirayo dies, telling Midora that Midora was completely set up to procure the cure water, and the Katya was in collusion with the Blue Nicho from the start. And it seems like potentially there is a greater chef than Froze-sama. Either that or the chef to appear again. Again, I'm referencing these abstract quotes from Ichirayo because he wasn't able to explain himself before he got killed. The chef to appear again either means the revival of Froze-sama in her zombie form, or a chef that rarely appears, but when he does, he's the best chef of all time. Potentially someone better than Froze-sama, which I don't even know if that's possible. I don't think it's referenced because Froze-sama is the god of all chefs. There's no one referenced in the universe up until this point that's better than Froze-sama. And so potentially what's going on here is that there's someone better than Froze-sama, or this referenced person to return again, to appear again, in order to meet that person, and in order for the Blue Nicho to meet that person, they had to sacrifice Froze-sama. We don't know. And it's very curious, what do these Blue Nicho want? Either Katya was forced into something, which doesn't seem likely, but it seems like what's going on is that Katya is actually evil, because according to this chapter and Ichirayo's last words, he was in collusion with the Blue Nicho from the start. So maybe he has evil intentions now, or maybe this Endland thing that even Neo is after is very great. And what do people like in the Toriko universe? Food and money, mainly just food. So it's probably some ridiculous food. Why do they like this food? At this point, with all these high power levels, I feel like the only reason is potentially high revivability, maybe the ability to be immortal or something like that. We don't know. And so the last key thing that I feel like a lot of people missed here was that Madura, just before the blue Nicho takes out Ichirayu, Madura says something like along the lines of, "You don't mean that the true enemy is," and then Ichirayu responds with one word, "Yes," right before the blue Nicho knocks him out. So that means Madura already knows, and Ichirayu has confirmed who it is that the true enemy is. And that means that Ichirayu has already met or known about this true enemy. And I feel like maybe it's not Neil, or maybe because Madura didn't know about the spies in this organization. Maybe it's Frozy-sama, maybe it's Katya as the true enemy. We don't know. Anyhow, the final slide is we see a blue Nitro turn around, and you can see by the blue Nitro's facial expression and its body language, it's not scared of Madura. It turns around like this, looking back over the shoulder, and it's just like, "Come at me." And either one of two things are going to happen. He's going to beat Madura, or he's going to be able to easily run away because his power level outclasses Madura. And that's saying quite a lot, because Madura has enslaved Nitro himself, and on top of that, Madura is really strong. So, and on top of that, there, like in the flashback, there's like 12 blue Nitro. So maybe like even the strongest people are completely outclassed. And Toriko's done it again. It's one-upped itself, and each time you say there's no way there can be someone stronger, they've done it again. And so this blue Nitro is very strange because, again, like we've seen this before, but it has this sort of like thing running down, like a strap running down its body, and it looks just like a sort of artillery pack or like a ammo pack that runs down like soldiers. And the thing is, like, it seems like just a fashion sense thing because they don't use guns, but it's very strange. It looks just like that. And so you see, like, finally you see like Madura, who has now become stronger than Ichirayu. He's really pissed, and he's like, "Blue Nitro, eh?" And he's about to fight this blue Nitro. So I'm excited for the next chapter, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't even know anymore, because Ichirayu got stomped fairly quickly by Madura, like it or not. Like the whole fight took like 2.5 chapters. And so I'm thinking here that Ichirayu is potentially the strongest person of the Toriko universe as of yet, excluding the king beasts and the gourmet and a lot of the gourmet world monsters. Probably not a lot, because you can see that a lot of the gourmet monsters were either killed or avoiding the scene because it was pretty much a gourmet king class battle, because of remember the 2 hurricane things that erupted when they started fighting. So Ichirayu is like one of the strongest people in the universe, and yet we have this blue Nitro, all of a sudden, one of dozens, just pop up saying, "I'm not scared of you." So where do these Nitro stand? How come they don't care that their brothers or their lesser selves are being enslaved by Madura? And how do they compare to these 8 kings? Are they on a completely different level than the 8 gourmet world kings? And on top of that, what are they? Are they aliens from another world? We don't know. Apparently these Nitro are species that have survived thousands of years longer than humans or other creatures. So maybe they are one of the kings. We don't know. So thanks for watching, and please leave a comment if you really stuck through all 30 minutes of this. I really appreciate it. It leaves a smile on my face when someone has really respected me enough to watch this whole thing. As always, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.